And we're live. Susana is here. Good evening, everyone. How are you doing today? Thank you all for joining us. My name is Angie Abreu, and I'm the founder of Dominican Writers Association. Dominican Writers is a nonprofit literary arts organization that I founded in 2015 with the mission to advocate for our Dominican stories by highlighting and promoting and providing them the tools and resources to become published authors. For more information, you can follow us on dominicanwriters.com and Dominican writers all over social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I would like to introduce the editor of this wonderful collection of cuenticos, and our editor is Yamberlie Tavarez. Yamberlie is a Queens-born Dominican essayist and poet. Her writing focuses on parenting, gender roles, race, and the dynamics of human relationships. She has a degree in literary studies from the Eugene Lang Liberal Arts College of the New School. Yamberlie was the development director of the Feminist Press. She is currently a SAM, navigating motherhood with two spirited humans, Ryan and Riley. She has recently joined the Dominican Writers team as editor of the WA Cuenticos to contribute in elevating the voices of our Latinx writers. Take it away, Yamberlie.
Thank you, thank you. All right, thank you everyone for joining us. Whoever's tuning in, let me see who's tuning in. For the second reading of La Doña, essays on the Dominican Matriarch. I'm gonna dance whenever I hold the book, so don't get so annoyed. Okay, and thank you for the writers who contributed. This is a very special project. It's our very first Cuenticos anthology. Thank you guys. I just want to give you guys an idea of how the night is going to go. We're going to go ahead and introduce all the writers, and we'll jump into the reading of the passages of the essays, and we'll discuss our feelings, our writing process, and the editing process, and all of that. And then we're going to go ahead and let the audience, whoever's tuning in, ask questions. So I hope you have good ones. All right, so for our writers here tonight, we have Abril Peña. Hi, Abril. Abril was born and raised in Queens, New York. She is a writer, a social impact professional, and the eldest daughter of her Dominican immigrant parents. She enjoys writing about her personal experiences as a first-generation New Yorker, navigating her career and relationships, and trying to understand her multifaceted identity as an Afro-Latina. Abril works in nonprofit and corporate spaces advocating for youth, education, racial and gender equity, and financial literacy. Welcome, Abril. Okay, next up is Amanda Ortiz. She is a New York born and bred first-generation Dominican writer, polyglot, lettering artist, bibliophile, globetrotter, and human rights reformer. Her degrees in international affairs and Latin American studies unearth a commitment to peace building, transitional justice, and remembrance space recovery initiatives in post-genocide societies, particularly Hispaniola. Next is Coylan. Coylan Maciel Gomez is a poet and writer born in the Dominican Republic and raised in Corona, Queens. Hey, Corona, Coylan graduated from Hunter College with a major in creative writing. Her writing explores her Dominican upbringing and represents her dual identity as a young Dominican immigrant. Today, Coylan is a proud mom of two beautiful school-aged children and resides in New York City. Mari Gomez. She is a Dominican-American writer born in Puerto Plata, Dominican Republic. She graduated magna cum laude with a bachelor's degree in communications from the City College of New York. She obtained her master's in school psychology from Long Island University and worked for the New York City schools as a bilingual school psychologist for 30 years. Susanna Kuhn is a program manager, writer, and mother She earned her undergraduate mechanical engineering degree at the University of Rochester and her master's from Virginia Tech. You can find her work online at Scary Mommy, Her View from Home, the Women's Fiction Writers Association, the International Theater Writers Big Girl Magazine, and many more. All right. Welcome, everybody. Okay, so tonight we're gonna start like in alphabetical order. So the first reading will be Abri.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Dominican Writers Association, for having us and giving us the space. I'm going to read straight from the book just to make it as authentic as a reading could be. So you'll hear my flips, and I'll also try to dance with the book. Okay. We've barely been on speaking terms. As soon as our plane touched down in Santo Domingo, we had an unspoken agreement to play nice and to put on this illusion that we have our shit together as a family. For Mama, for the distant relatives, and for the family friends. They have no idea that Mommy and I were having screaming matches just weeks prior over trivial things like dirty dishes or significant things like her buying a house with her boyfriend. They don't know that we can't even sit in family therapy without competing in the trauma Olympics, in which there is no winner. No, they know none of that. They only know of us as the smiling faces on their Facebook feed. The graduations, the birthdays, the vacations, the chismes they hear through voice memos and WhatsApp group chats. They know Mommy as the architect, the stoic single mother, the career woman, the bohemian who listens to Latin American folk music, whose Facebook statuses are poetic, political, and absent of grammatical errors. The Mommy they know may look somewhat familiar to me, but I don't know her. The Mommy I know criticizes the kink of my hair, the boyish sneakers I wear, the vulgar music I listen to, and the attention I get from my reverberating laugh. She suppresses the few things I have in common with her and the many things that remind her of Papi. She kills her curls in a fresh blowout and questions why I let mine live. When people ask her how I'm doing, she doesn't tout that I'm finishing my degree while working part-time. She sneers, ella no hace nada. To her, I do nothing in comparison to what she does. A martyr of motherhood, a martyr of motherhood is the role that has defined her identity, whether she liked it or not. She uses her words to hurt me, and I defend myself using the same voice I inherited from her. Suddenly, I'm rebellious, defiant. You are not a good daughter, she tells me, not like I was. I used to cook for my father and make coffee without being asked. I listened to my mother. I never disrespected her. By this point in the lecture, my bedroom door has already been shut behind me. She's tough, Mommy, but not as tough as her mother. Whenever we are in El Campo at Mama and Papa's house, the beautiful home where they raised their children and returned to for retirement after working for decades in New York, Mommy is no longer the architect, the career woman, the bohemian. She's boiled down to the obedient daughter. She happily runs to make Papa another cup of coffee while he sits in his rocking chair listening to classical music on the porch. In the sala, she opens up a maleta full of new dresses, shoes, pants, and shirts for Mama to inspect and distribute amongst family members, according to size and needs, ultimately to be disappointed that Mommy didn't bring more. She bickers with Mama about the things that have been misplaced since the last time we were here, or how yet another girl quit working in the house because Mama was difficult. Las dominicanas no quieren trabajar, Mama says in her defense before Mommy is tasked with hiring another Dominican girl to cook and to clean, hopefully one who hasn't heard of Mama's bad reputation with the help. The imperfections of me and my brother, his unkempt afro hair and my acne are blamed on Mommy. She explains how she begged and pleaded with my brother to go to the barber shop before the trip and how many soaps and treatments she's bought for me that failed to clear up my skin. Uninterested in explanations or excuses, Mama has already left the room. She drops bombs of criticisms on Mommy and her sisters alike, going before the debris settles. My Goliath suddenly shrinks down and becomes David. That's it.
And this really hit home because like how unique is that experience of like unpacking the maleta full of things that you take to the R, right? Or boxes that you send over there. And how different they act with their own mothers. It makes you see them like children themselves, right?
They are in a
Yeah.
sense.
Like they're not these like strong, intimidating women when they're with their mothers, right? That really stuck with me. Okay, so we're gonna move on to Amanda. Amanda's essay is Ode to Mama, and it's on page 10 if you have the book.
I'm going to follow in Abril's footsteps and read from the book, so I'm going to be looking down. To give really brief context, the excerpt that I'm reading is about a portrait that's like emblazoned in my mind. My mama died when I was a toddler still. So this relationship with this picture is a really colorful exhibition of who she is to me. So just for anyone who hasn't read the full anthology yet. So. In that portrait, Mama was a whole vibe, staring assuredly at the camera, a playful smile dancing on her lips that never fully materialized. Her general forma de ser and style gave an aura of effortlessly chic, a trademark of hers, I'm told. A powder blue sleeveless top hugging her shoulders, her hair coiffed in a flawless updo, drop earrings adorning her ears, matching necklace resting on her collarbone. Everything from her expression to the circumstances surrounding the portrait exuded an air of allure and mystery. I still don't know her actual age in that photograph, though if I had to guess, I'd say her early 20s. Reminiscent of how others have long described the Mona Lisa, I'm convinced there's much that immortalized Señora could have learned from my abuela. Much to my disappointment at the time, the portrait never delivered the answers I longed for. Instead, it sent me on a lifelong quest to glean the real her from the lore, the nostalgia, and at times the vitriol with which she's been spoken of over the years. So what have I learned in that time? What rings most true? Demure, shrinking violet, she was not, but bold and classy, always. Vanity was not her vice, and she wasn't one to weaponize her beauty, but many describe her as a type of mujer de bandera who regularly stopped traffic. Her penetrating gaze could communicate whole paragraphs. She unabashedly stood up for and with others, loved ones and strangers alike, even when she stood alone. She faced the future resolutely with her eyes fixed on what lay ahead, even when she had no idea where the road was taking her. And she somehow managed to do it with poise, never letting on to any ounce of fear that may have attempted to overtake her. Una mujer con los zapatos bien puestos, as the saying goes. She was a force. She had an inability to sit quietly by and not call out wrongdoing, even in those she loved most, consequences be damned. She had a temper and let her sentiments be known, but was quick to forgive. Her love for her family, those who became her family, and for her patria was fervent and steadfast. And she was a fighter right to the end.
You know, you said she passed away when she was really young, but like from these words, it feels like you just knew who she was. Like you were there with her as she was going through all these experiences. Like I felt like I knew her. Like okay.
It's the power of stories, I think, in our families that like I barely got to know her, but I know her through my mother's experiences, my siblings. Like it's just she's so real to me in so many ways. So.
Yeah, it came through in your essay. I felt it. You know, I saw the picture, like I can see the picture in my head. I didn't talk too much yesterday about how I selected the essays, but the way I did it was like something just stuck with me. And like yesterday was like the avocados, like the story with the avocados. And then this one's like I could see the portrait. Like everyone has a portrait of their grandmother in their house. And it's exactly the same, right? All right, thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is Koilan. You ready?
Yes, Koilan.
Am I saying it right? Everyone
No, you
mispronounces
are. You
Yamberlie
are.
all the time, so let me know. I'm okay, call me whatever you want, but no, tell me how you pronounce it. Koilan.
Yeah, you said it right, Koilan.
Okay, you're reading La Reina, and that is on page 34.
Okay. So this short story is about my mom and her experience, basically everything that I've learned from her experience being in DR before she migrated here to the United States. So I had to sit down with her, and it was such an emotional process. And it took me a very long time to finally like document, the story. And I hope I made her proud. She always told me, mi hija, no dependa de nadie. The best thing you can do for yourself is to become fully independent. That way, no one can control you or hang anything over your head. Financial independence meant so much to her, but I knew that this economic obsession came from a place of trauma. As a little girl, her family was so poor that she would have to clean someone's house in exchange for dinner. I wonder what that must have been like, knowing that she was willingly and unwillingly throwing herself into the lion's den. Not all dinners came easy, as some houses meant she had to dodge a few pedophiles here and there. They would purposely ask for her to do the cleanings, get so close that they could take a whiff of her hair, touch her hand, graze a thigh. She either had to tolerate it or go to sleep hungry. Hunger was not an option. That type of shit scars you for life. The thing is, what choice did she have when fight or flight is embedded in your DNA? You better work. Roll over and die, tú ta loca. Funny the things you pick up without even knowing, the traumas you try to break without even trying. It's almost like your body is a mythical creature because it knows what to carry and what to let go.
Yeah, if you don't have the book with you, let me just show you. Like her essay is like in poems too. Like it's poetry and prose. And I'm sorry, but I love that. I just love that. That's
How long did it take you to document that?
It took me, when I saw that there was a call for submissions for this, I was blown away because it was like divine. It was like a divine intervention, because I was literally like sitting down with my mom for a few months and like just having these very profound personal conversations about her childhood. And it was very intense. We had to take a lot of breaks. There was a lot of crying. There was a lot of hugging. And throughout this whole process, I'm like, I'm healing something, like I have to write something down. I have to give her like this grand, like, this is your story. What you went through mattered. Like, this is not only just you. So many people have gone through this. It has impacted me for the rest of my life. So it did take a couple of weeks before, when I saw that call for submission, I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. I was going to stop writing. I was just like, if God doesn't send me a sign, I'm just going to give up. And, it was divine,
It's how do you say is I've had those conversations with my mom as well. And like yours, they're full of trauma. And I think as children, sometimes we don't even, like, we forget that our parents are human too, right?
Yeah.
I have a 14-year-old son now, and I'm like, this kid, probably sees me in the same way that I saw my mom, that, she's not going through anything or experiencing any trauma or whatnot. So it's vindicating, I guess, for her to have you give her time to share what she's been through. And just like you said, like, it's a form of healing, because I'm pretty sure that no one has sat down and asked her,
yeah,
how are you, how you've been, how did you get through it, right? Because now as an adult, I speak to my mom and I'm like, you were going through what, when?
While you were raising me?
Right. And my mom, through her struggles, made sure that we didn't notice. Mm-hmm. Right. But then now as adult, we're like, what do you mean this was going on? Who was helping you? To us, some of the stuff is alarming. Or like, but you were a single mom. How did you overcome that? How did you do that? And it just speaks to the strength of our Dominican women. I'm going to put it out there, because what I've gotten from a lot of these stories is that our matriarchs are the ones who hold it down. It's not the men.
It's not the money.
No, it's not.
It's the women who make the sacrifices, the women who leave the children behind to come here and make a better future for their children, the women who still support their family back home. My mom still supports her family back home. Ella todos los fines de semana me pide a mí quincenal $80 para ella mandarlo.
Para mandar la caja, para mandar la caja.
Yeah.
You know, and she's in her WhatsApp group de que con la iglesia, porque mi mamá de Puerto Plata también, Mari, mi mamá y mi papá son de Puerto Plata, y no, que el grupo hizo la carretera, que hay luz en la carretera ahora, and I'm like, Ma, this is what you do in your WhatsApp group, and she's like, yeah, hay que organizar la gente.
Yes.
And you know, it's mostly the women who are doing this, and on, you know, not to, I'm not gonna say that the men are worthless, because I guess they play their role, right? They play their role, but it's the women that have been through all the trauma and all the suffering, and our matriarchs deserve that grace.
Yes, I agree.
And you ladies have extended that grace to them via these writings. Y Coilen, yo no quiero oír nunca que tú vayas a decir de que I'm gonna give up on writing.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Next up is Mari. Mari's page is 39. I think you're reading from actually page 43 though.
I didn't get the book, so I'm reading actually from a page. So
Okay.
for those of you who do have the book,
It's 43.
43. Okay. Actually, it's you picked the saddest part of my story. My story, I think, was it has a little bit of everything, because that was my mom, and I think by listening to you guys, I could see my mom in each of your stories. So my excerpt is not as happy as some of the others. Anyway, I might have to stop in between to take some breathing exercises, but please bear with me. The cold, murky water of the ocean defies the August Palm Beach heat. Under a large, fluffy hat, I dip my feet in the wading pool and listen to the last remaining voices of children before they head back to school. Among squeals, splashes, and mother's warnings, I take one last salty breath before heading back. Disarray in the hotel room reminds me of the past week, and I resign myself to start packing, armed with a glass of wine. The phone rings, and I pick up, rehearsing my "we can't stay another day, you start school Tuesday" response, in anticipation of my daughter's thousand requests to extend a vacation. My sister's on the other side. You need to come back. Time does not stand still. It just vanishes. My mom sits in a wheelchair only after the repeated insistence of the elderly. She searches for my eyes. I desperately avoid hers. In her most believable voice, she tries to imbue me with strength. Con Dios, todo es posible. She stands in the way of the blow and turns her cheek towards the clenched fist of destiny. Yet, a language barrier makes me the pilot of this torturous trip. And every time a doctor describes the indescribable, she looks to me for answers. I am the one protecting her, and English is my shield. I am the one who must be brave. I am the one smiling and translating a death sentence into a hopeful tomorrow. 3 years pretending, 3 years praying, 3 years hoping, 3 years crying, 3 years laughing together, begging God for more times. 3 years saying goodbye, Her heroism intensifies 100-fold. It's irrational to think that I can fool her. She knows, and she does what she always done. She braves the storm and finds strength when there is none. Her branches extend and she hugs longer and harder. It is her granddaughter's 16th birthday. How many times do I have to tell you, Mina does not wear flat shoes? But Mom, I will not disfigure this beautiful gown with those hideous shoes. Bring me my heels. She struggles to get up from the bed, but refuses my sister's hand. The last round of chemotherapy was just 3 days ago, and her face is swollen. She looks at the image staring at her in the mirror and asks me to touch up her makeup. I need more red on these lips, too pale. I hand her the tube of red lipstick, and she reapplies it with one hand while removing the headscarf with the other. She slowly places the pixie cut wig on her head and adjusts it. El toque final. I stare transfigured. She shines. She throws her head back and laughs again. And the blackness of the wig transports me right back to childhood. And at the same time, I return to the day my grandmother ran downhill to rescue her Dulcinea and see myself as the new Don Quixote. Mina's spirit has won yet another battle. The old oak tree returns to the earth, but its acorns have germinated new ones with branches that reach the heavens. And the future is possible because of her.
Thank you, Maddie. That was that part that really gets you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. That just goes to show what we're just talking about right now, about the sacrifices, the mother sacrifices. Even you trying to protect her, she was protecting you even to the end.
Absolutely.
And you can tell, I don't know, whoever has the book, you can see she divided each section with the drought, defined traditions. Like each year, she separated, and it was like a little story within the story for each section. That was beautiful. I really like how you divided the sections and how you started with her funny story of how she got married, and then it ties up to the end. You still need that red lipstick.
Thank you.
Okay. Our final reader is Susanna. Can you read? I know you're driving now.
Yes, I stopped. I can read.
Okay. So you're gonna be reading, and yet I still know nothing. It's on page 48.
Okay. Sorry, I'll take off my glasses. Should I preface it with what it's about, or?
Yeah.
Okay. This essay is just about my grandma, and how I saw her matriarchal strength, if you will, through a kind of different lens. Instead of feeling a grandchild, I was kind of an outsider for a while, and I grew to appreciate her based on how my family reacted to her. She was on my dad's side, and my mom didn't really like us going there all the time, so I wasn't as close as I wish I could have been before she passed away. But this essay is just a reflection of the relationship that I did get to have with her. All right, I'll start. As a Dominican woman, do I do things the same way? No, and I'm not sure that I could. My beliefs are different. I want my kids to understand the value of their strength and individuality without fear that they're disappointing me. What I yearned for in my future was not the things my grandparents thought about in their youth. Unfortunately, the reality of my upbringing only tangentially affected the traditions of my culture, but a lot did stick with me, including the language. White teachers raised me alongside middle-class friends in cushy suburban houses. My sons are half German and learning phrases in Spanish along the way, fascinated by bachata and increasingly more curious about what it means to be Hispanic. Even with 2 little ones and another on the way, one thing is clear. I may not be a Dominican matriarch in the same way that my abuela ruled her household with a fierce grip over how people dressed, spoke, and behaved, but I'm still a Dominican mother. I realize now that a mother's role is never complete. It's not easy to control a whole family, let alone an entire generation of people with their kids and problems. You can't tie a nice bow on that responsibility and shoo it away at their 18th birthday. Instead, you brace yourself for what's yet to come in the next stage of their life and how you can be there as their pillar of support. After Abuela's passing, the dynamic has only shifted mildly. People still gather at her home regularly and meet for tostones and their dose of weekly gossip. Abuela's adult kids and now adult grandchildren still have a penchant for the feeling they craved each time they entered her casita, the place that she turned into a shelter for over 20 years. It speaks volumes to feel how alive Abuela's spirit remains among us all. And yet I still know nothing about how to obtain that otherworldly power Abuela still has over her devoted family. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you mentioned before when submitting this piece that you were afraid to submit it because, you know, of what you wrote about your grandmother and how your family is going to react because she is their matriarch and your experience was different than theirs. How do you feel now that it's out there?
I think this was a good thing for me to get sort of pushed into doing because it's like years of running from like my identity and my culture and my feelings. And I think it's important as women, especially, to kind of be open about this is what I felt. Maybe it's not going to be accepted, or maybe it's not what was expected of me now or at the time. But there's a, I don't know, refreshing feeling about just writing honestly, knowing that there's nothing wrong about being honest if that's what you really feel. But I guess like as women, we kind of feel like suppressed, and if we're not going to share an opinion that's going to click well with others, then we shouldn't do it. And this is kind of my first step in saying this is my opinion, and I'm owning it.
How has your family reaction been? Has anyone read it in your family?
Yeah, so I showed it to my dad because it's his mother, and I know he was really aware of, hey, you know, we went to court for things, and my mom specifically was like, I do not want the kids there after their divorce. It was ugly. And I showed it to him and I said, hey, I want you to read this piece I wrote about, you know, even though I wasn't close to her, she meant so much to me. And I think for years, he kind of saw my mom as my mouthpiece, where she was like, you know, they don't even like her and she doesn't like them. And I think he was happy to read that I did take something from her, but also conflicted because the word he used was interesting.
He used what?
The word he used was interesting.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, he didn't know how to put into words what was going through his mind, likely.
Yes, he's very timid, so I don't think he was gonna say what he felt, but I think it's at least good to acknowledge her because for years that was the rule in my house, like you don't talk to your grandma, you don't go over there.
Wow. How has sharing your stories been for the rest of you? Has your family read it, your friends? What has been the reaction? Koila, and your mom, does she know about your essay? Did she read it?
Yeah, she did. I translated it into Spanish for her. I don't know how perfect it was. I used Google Translate. But she bawled. She was just so emotional about seeing her life just have like that value of her experiences and like validating her life and like her childhood and how much it has impacted me and how like it kind of humanized her, because now I'm a mom and I have 2 kids, and everything that she was going through while still raising me, while still learning about herself and growing and trying to heal and raising children at the same time. You know, it's just like to see that I saw and see and understand her pain, you know, now as a woman. It was very important for my mom to read that. I wanted her to read it, you know, so when I took out the time to translate it, I knew that it could have gone the complete opposite way, where she would have been offended because I didn't ask for permission.
Right. Like now everybody knows my business.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dominicano, lo que pasa en la casa se queda en la casa.
Yeah.
That's what her reaction would have been, but it was actually the contrary. She was like, I want people to know this is still happening. You know, people are sacrificing every day coming here and leaving their kids, knowing that the relationship is going to change forever. You know, you're doing that to give your child a better life, and this is still going on. So her story is universal, you know, and it meant a lot for her to read that and for me to have shared it with everybody.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to share what their family, friends' reaction was?
think,
Mine was interesting because I'm in the middle now. I lost my mom 13 years ago, but my daughter was the one who actually encouraged me. They were very close. My daughter was the first grandchild, and they became very close. So when this is part of a larger story that I was writing. That I just retired, and I always wanted to be a writer when I was younger, and I put it on the background. I got involved into something else. Life happened, and now that I'm retired, then I said, okay, maybe this is the time. And when I saw the call for submission, my daughter said, you have to submit it. And I said, no, it's gonna be like you said. I think I'm gonna be embarrassed. I don't think I'm good enough. I don't think this is publishable. So she was actually the force behind me. She actually wrote some of my emails because I had a trip to South America, so I couldn't. So it was interesting that I'm a mom, and all of these encouragements coming from my daughter. So what I did was, in terms of, like you said, some of the stuff that is embarrassing for some of the family, there's one particular story, mini section, where I talk about living with some aunts. That was really embarrassing. And so what I did was I sprinkled a lot of fantasy into the real stories. So that way I figure if they read it, then they won't be as offended. And so some parts of the story, they are true, but some parts I just, I guess, recreated based on stories that I've heard, like the wedding. I have no idea, what happened during the wedding, but my aunts would tell me this is what happened, and they both got married the same day. So, so I kind of reconstructed based on what they told me. But it was great, and just by listening to you guys, like I said, I feel like all of your mothers are also my mother, because all of the things that you've mentioned, all of the sacrifices that your mothers made, all of the experiences. I don't remember if it was Amanda or Abril who talked about, kind of like becoming your mother. I think it was Abril. Like you and your mom were having a lot of conflict, and then you saw like the root where that came from when you saw your mother with her mother. So I think that's how I see it, like myself, my daughter, and my mother. So that was my experience, but I had no intention of sharing this with anyone. So thank you.
Well,
Thanks for sharing.
I'm glad that your daughter encouraged you and made sure that you submitted.
I'm glad you pushed it.
Yes, she did.
Who else wants to share their experience and family reactions?
So for me, I will say that the reaction has been overwhelmingly positive. My family has really embraced this. It's really exciting for me. But to your point, Angie, like, hay cierta cosa que pasan en la casa que no se hablan. So this was emotional and healing for me. But at the same time, I was like, am I supposed to put this in the world? Like the idea that it's among my people, right? So the things that I described, to Mari's point, which is really a gift, being able to identify with other people's stories or see parts of my family in other people's stories. Like I wanted that, but at the same time, it's a conflicting emotion. Like it's private things, it's things that happen in our family, are those supposed to be out in the world? And then also to Susanna's point, it's my maternal grandmother. So this idea that, she's this mythical creature to me, but I didn't want that to come across in the essay. I want her to be a real flesh and bone person. And at the same time, like what Susanna said, like, I don't think my dad has read it. It's not his mother, So there's that too, like not everyone's going to love everything that I put out into the world, but I have to make sure that it's true to me and true to my experience.
Thank you. What about you, Abril?
So I actually haven't shown it to any of my family members above like 25 years, above my age. So
only millennials have read it?
No, younger. Only millennials and Gen Z have read it.
Why?
So I think that like and granted, I'm still kind of, yeah, I have that feeling of like, I'm airing people's dirty laundry. And it's kind of like, like how we mentioned, like, I didn't really ask permission to tell my mom's story. And then also it's like, I'm afraid that she's going to read it and say, well, that's not me. And that's not how so I had to put it out there without telling them so that I could put it out there. So because I feel like if I had told them even before, I probably would have been like, oh, I can't post it. I can't publish it. But I'll get there. But at least from like my cousins, from my friends who have read it, they did resonate, which I found surprising, I think, because I feel like we all think that we have like unique experiences with our parents, but it turns out that they're not actually very unique, that we all have very similar experiences with our parents. So I thought that was great.
So none of them, the older generation, none of them follow you on social media or
Girl,
Facebook?
I blocked everyone. I even posted on Instagram. I said, and obviously, like, now that I'm manifesting it and I'm speaking it now, I know it's gonna get to some WhatsApp group chat like, "Ay, yo voy a abrirla en YouTube," and I know it's gonna get there. But and now I'm okay with it. Now I'm accepting it. But I literally did post on my stories right after posting that I got it published. I said, please don't share it with my mom. Please don't.
No, que va a haber un chismoso.
Oh my, I'm sure. I'm
Mira
sure.
lo que escribió Abril.
Yeah.
Siempre hay uno. So, ladies, how many of you had published previous to this? None of you?
I had.
You, Susana?
Yes, I like writing, so I like get published on random websites, but it's never been like this. The closest I've gotten is my blog, and I took it down last year because I was going through stuff. So I feel like it's important for me to remember you can't just hide yourself because it's not ideal.
What kind of work were you publishing prior to this?
I was doing technical writing. I was on mom blogs, parenting blogs.
Very different than you writing.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, a lot of those, no offense to anybody, is like white audiences. They're like the moms that are going to Costco's, that they're staying at home and their husband's paychecks, and they can't relate to my experiences. So I have to write to like cater to them. I've never been able to look inside and be like, all right, how was my Hispanic upbringing and my Hispanic mother? Like, how is that influencing what I do? And my own childhood, people don't relate to the chancla, or, you're going to get it when you get home. So,
so how has you been published by Dominican writers impacted you now, since it's the first time that you have published something for a Latino audience, a Dominican audience, to be more specific? Has that, I don't know, how has that impacted your writing? Do you want to continue writing for, our audience, or you want to continue writing your technical writing and mom blogs? Because it's different things.
Oh, no. I mean, I do multiple things at the same time, so it's not an either or, but for me, like, having tapped into this audience is very special for me because, I can resonate. Like, I came in the middle of someone's story and I could already, like, I was almost crying, because I feel the same things. So I think it's like I found a new community that was always there, but I told myself I didn't relate to, because it's always like, oh, you're acting too white or you're acting too Hispanic, and everyone wants you to be their version of their whatever they lived. But I'm actually writing a fiction novel that I was working on since last year between about the relationship between a Hispanic mother and a Hispanic daughter, and all that comes about her choosing this white husband. And it's really had me tap into my emotions and my feelings with my mom. And sometimes I tell her about it and she's like, you're writing a whole book about me. But, like one of the other writers said, I just weave in fantasy with it. So I was like, it's not all about you, but it is inspired by you. Like, that relationship is very special, but also was very toxic and tumultuous for a few years. So I think this essay in particular just is helping me to be honest. Like, what did I go through as a Hispanic child? What am I doing as an Hispanic adult? And like, to go find people that can relate to me instead of always being scared that I'm the one in the corner thinking, my childhood didn't look like that. Am I not normal?
Well, you'll be surprised how many people have the same experiences as you.
Right.
Can name about 5 cousins that feel like you do. And even, people like my son that was raised here, and he's the child of two Dominican parents, and my kid is, more Americanized than Dominican, and he's never going to be able to relate to my upbringing. I raised my child very differently from what my mom raised me and how her mom raised her. And
Right.
sometimes I find myself pointing that out to my son. And he's like, what? Your mom did what? And I'm like, yeah, mi mamá daba chancletazo, and
Yeah.
I've never done that to you.
Right.
And our parents didn't have time to talk to us about anything growing up, or or give us any guidance. I mean, at least my mom, but that's actually pretty normal, that they were so busy with their struggle and giving us our livelihood that they didn't get to live their own lives, right?
Absolutely.
And that's not my experience, right? But that is the experience of many of our parents.
Yeah, there's almost some guilt in that too, because you kind of, I don't know, at least for me, like sometimes I'll spend $200 on something and I'm like, this could have been through my mom's water bills. And for a while I had to adjust to like, this is what it means to give your kids better, for you to live a better life because your parents sacrificed. But I feel guilty, like I'm not going through the hardships my mother did. And I just feel so bad that she even had to.
Yeah, my son said something to me the other day that I was like, I'm gonna hang up the phone on you right
Oh my
now.
gosh.
Because he was complaining about something, and I'm like, why don't you wash that by hand? And he's like, he's like, I'm not poor.
Yeah.
I was like, mira muchacho, yo te voy a
Oh
colgar
my
el teléfono a ti. And he's like, I don't need to do that because I'm not poor. And then I had to remind myself, that my child is spoiled and he's living la vida que yo nunca viví, because I could afford to give him that life. And he doesn't need to struggle. He doesn't know what that is.
Right.
Él no sabe lo que es no tener comida, él no sabe lo que es que te apaguen la luz, él no sabe lo que es tener un eviction notice o no tener trabajo, and you trying to buscar los pesitos para tú pagar la renta o para comprarle unos tenis a un muchacho, el uniforme de colegio, que lo utile de la escuela. Like, he doesn't know what that is, right?
Yeah.
Because our parents went through all that so that we wouldn't have to.
Right.
Right. And yeah, sometimes that privilege comes with a little bit of guilt. I totally agree with you. But Susana, I hope that you continue to write for your audience. And I hope that it gave you more encouragement to continue writing. And I'm pretty sure that you're going to come across people who say, I feel like this, or I connect with your story. Because there are many folks who do.
Right. Yeah, thank you.
Who else? And Coilen dijo que nunca la habían publicado. Mari tampoco.
Oh, well, I was in college. I was a communications major, so I did like stories and the school newspaper and things like that. But my idea was always to write fiction and especially children. I worked for almost 3 decades with children with special needs. So that's my goal, is to work on books, because so when I was working as a psychologist, one of the things that I found was that I couldn't find books that identify with the children that I was trying to help, not only in terms of language, but in terms of background, in terms of socioeconomic, and especially in terms of their disabilities, because that's what I was dealing with. So it was a lot, and I think there still is a lack of resources for those particular children. So that's hopefully what I'm going to be dedicating the next few years.
You're going to write children's books?
I've already started a few. I want to write, like I said, books for children with specific disabilities, because that was what I was, working for.
We have a children's writing and publishing workshop going on right now.
Oh, I didn't see it.
Yeah,
I've
sign up. I'll send you the videos, and it's every Sunday at 3 p.m.
Is that the one with Luz? Because I know she did. Oh, okay. So I saw that, but I think I have a conflict. That's why I didn't sign up for that
Because
one.
we record the sessions.
Oh, okay.
Send the videos to the people who miss it if you're not able to make it. So let me know if you're interested. But that is wonderful that you're thinking about filling that gap, because that is true. There's very little. Within the few years, I've come across just a few books that touch on disabilities for kids, like autism is the most popular one. But,
yeah, but that I think that particular disability, and I found in the last few years of my work a lot, because there was so much attention into autism, that that got a lot of, we got a lot about autism, but there are other 12 disabilities according to the education department, and none of those they're practically unknown to the public. So I want to maybe, like you said, fill that gap and see. But it's a lot of work, and it's just like writing is a lot of work. And
take it one day at a time.
Yeah.
Okay. No te ponga deadline, just let it flow, and it's gonna be ready when it's ready.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. I mean, this is an encouragement, because like I said, I really didn't think that what I was writing was more like a journal, not so much for being shared with other people. So thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. What about the rest of you ladies? How has you being published for the first time impacted you and your writing?
I guess I'll talk. Well, for me, it definitely gave me like the motivation that I needed, right? Because I didn't think that anybody would care to read. Like, that's the same story. No one's gonna care. Who's gonna relate to this? Who cares? And it kind of like sparked that inspiration that I needed at the moment and at the time. And I've been writing for a long time, right? I used to perform when I was in college, in high school, and then life happened, and I have 2 children now. So just trying to balance my writing and pursuing it. Like when I had my one-on-one with you, Angie, you told me you have to have your Instagram. Where's your online presence? And I'm like, oh my God, I hate online presence. It's so much pressure. People like want. And that balance of like, okay, I can't force myself to constantly have content.
You gotta make it what you wanted to make it. Si tú te llevas a la gente, tú te vas a volver loca.
That is where I am finding like myself, because I'm like, listen, if I don't have anything to write today, I can't. Like,
and that's it. You don't
where
have
am I
anything
supposed to take this out from if it's not there? So I'm just pacing myself, and when there is that inspiration, I'll write it and I'll share it. I have my little project on the side that I do want to publish a small little chapbook, and I'm just trying to finalize it and have it feel finished. And like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna feel like it's finished.
Well, yeah, that's the writers, the issue all writers have. Is this done? Let me add a little bit more. Even I've seen writers, even after they publish, they go back in and they want to add something or fix something.
Yeah.
I have seen it, but I'm glad that that you being published in this anthology has encouraged you to, continue writing and looking for community. I always tell writers that being part of a writer's community is super important, because the writing journey can feel very lonely, and sometimes you feel that you're the only person experiencing that loneliness or those doubts or that imposter syndrome, and you're not the only person. A lot of these ladies and other writers are experiencing the same thing that you are. So why not join a community that is going to give you that support and that encouragement to continue doing that work, right? You might get tons of rejections the first few times, and and you just gotta keep going. Como dijo J-Lo in su documentary, a no is just an opportunity. It's just another opportunity.
I have to watch it. It's on my watch list.
Right? When people say no to you, take that as an opportunity to do it, to
Yeah.
just, open your own path. So
Thank you.
thank you for sharing. Y tú, Abril, this was your first time?
This was my first piece. I mean, I'm not counting. I got published in the school newspaper when I was in 4th grade. I didn't want to flex that. I feel like good. Shout out to Miss Nissen. She really, she was my editor. So it was my first, like when I first saw because I followed Dominican writers for a few years and I've always like shared it with friends and I'm like, wow, this is such a cool resource, but I never considered myself a writer, even though I was here like journaling and like, filling up notebooks full of like journal entries and things like that. And at first I saw it as like, as almost like a journal prompt. I think that's kind of how I treated it. And I actually like even a part in the story that I wrote, or like to remember, because this, the story really takes place when I was like in like a few years ago. It's not even like current. So I went through some of my journey and I even talked to my therapist about it. And I was like, I was looking for a specific memory about something that I wanted to write about. And I went through my journals. I'm here trying to like, okay, I remember it was in DR and what time was I in DR? What year was it? And I'm flipping through and I find it and once I found it, I was like, oh, this is a sign that I have to just write it. I have to just do it. And so, I'm really, and I think that also we don't realize that writers could look like us. Like when I told my family I wanted to be a writer when I was a kid, they were like, oh, you ain't gonna make no money being a writer. Like you're not, what do you want to be a writer for? Like they wanted, and I understand, like, because our parents want us to pursue things that
is going to put food on the table.
That's going to put food on the table. They don't want us to go hungry. They don't want us to pursue things that they can't tell us, like, that they don't have any idea what that kind of career path is like. So I think that, and I want to shout out also Yadi, who does the sip and write like once a month. And I think that really helped, like having that little community of just like talking through ideas with people. But yeah, I mean, now I could be like, oh, I'm a writer. Like I got a book. I mean, I feel like I'm going to buy 10 more copies just to like have it in my purse and put one in every purse. So I don't forget like, oh, by the way, I'm public, like start signing.
I think that's what Amanda is doing, because Amanda bought a lot of copies.
There we go. There, as she
Abril, I agree.
Amanda's like, you get a book. You get
yes.
a book. Everybody gets a book.
Yep. And I think that especially like after hearing everyone speak today, I'm like, oh, now I really do gotta tell my mom eventually. Because if I'm gonna be out here with this book in my purse and telling people, I can't be like, Ma, look away. Don't look right now. So yeah, I think that it's been a really great experience, and I'm excited to participate in the next one for Father's Day. Because I think that seeing the matriarch and the patriarch of our parents, like those are two distinct experiences, but both really unique, I think, to
especially Dominican ones.
Yeah, like it's like you hear all the time, like, oh, Dominican men, and it's like, yeah, those are our fathers. Like we have to remember that, like we're talking about people who are our fathers or our grandfathers, and so can't wait for that discussion.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to that, to the Sion Papi. So I really want to know, how was your experience working with Yamberlie?
I'll start. I loved working with Yamberlie. Like, it's just, I think something about this experience was so cathartic and healing, and it's so personal, right? So you put it out and you're like, oh, it's done. And then someone's like, oh, well, not that we can make it better, but maybe we can flesh this out.
Mhm.
It's really taking that and being able to say it in an understanding way and still maintain your voice. And I feel like that's something that Yamberlie has a gift for. So.
Yes, I agree. I think a lot of the encouragement, I mean, some of us could have submitted and then been like, never mind. But she really gave that push of like, this is important, you are important, like we're going to get this out there. And that, you know, it gives you the hype you're not getting from anybody else, and it's kind of needed. So I feel like she went like above and beyond as an editor, like, hey, I'm not going to only make your work look good, I'm going to make you look good, and you have nothing to be ashamed of. And that's just really special.
I posted a TikTok just because Yamberlie was like, oh my God, she was doing
I love that
with the
TikTok.
book. She was
I'd be dying.
Fun fact, I had a guy that I dated many, many moons ago said, I just saw you on TikTok. This is my only video I have. And I'm like, this is a great way to be reintroduced. But yeah, Yamberlie, I think that the encouragement was like jumping out of the emails, honestly, like, and the editing, like, you know, and you work so, huh?
Whose phone is that?
Oh, that was mine. But yeah, you work so hard and then you're like, I have nothing else to give this, but it's not ready yet. And then she just puts the final finishing touches and it's like a presentable cake now, like something that you could share with people. So I thank her for that.
Like Mari says in her essay, el toque final. That's what that
Yes, and actually it was interesting because I didn't realize that we needed to name our stories. I don't know. So she was actually, you know, I mentioned when my mother was putting her wig and she said el toque final. So Yamberlie was actually the one who suggested that as a title. I thought it was perfect, but she was very professional. And I think, like I said, I was going through a lot. I was in South America. My husband was having surgery. So there was a lot going on. And I even have, like I said, my daughter emailed some of the emails. And she was just so patient and so understanding and just encouraging. Don't, you know, just do this and just very, very professional. I thought she had been doing this for a long time. So
Not with us.
Thank you.
Yes, she had been doing this somewhere else.
Yes, I agree with everything. I feel like when I got back my edits, first of all, she blew my mind because just by moving one sentence or, you know, maybe you should put this over here. And I'm like, wait, this totally reads different. And I love it. Like, it was just so, it was my first experience working with an editor. So to me, it was just such a beautiful way of like helping me put together this essay, you know, to have like a full heartbeat. It was just an amazing experience.
Wonderful. I'm so happy. You see, I made a great decision.
And you just like threw me and they're like, here, do it. I'm like, oh my God. When I first got the essays, I'm just like, these are already done. Like they're already perfect. I love them. Let's just publish it. But I'm just like, okay, let me see what I can do. But if, like Amanda, I remember you're just like, wait a minute, don't change too much. Wait, that's not my voice. Because I have a certain style. I do the like short paragraphs. I do like the poetry inside my essays, but I have to remember, like, back it up. Like, don't overdo it. And even right before we published this, like, wait, I want to change a few more things. Just one more sentence. So, I mean, just for our future contributors, feel free to stop me if it's too much. But yeah, I loved every essay.
I feel like that's a great relationship between an editor and a writer, like that back and forth. It doesn't have to be conflict, right? It's the editor reading it. It's you wrote it, so it's your feelings and it's what you feel inside, but it's how it's being received. And I think you strike the perfect balance between that because you listen, but you also give constructive criticism that enhances our work.
I also felt that she was in her edits and her suggestions. She was never like, you should do this, you should do that. She would make suggestions and what do you think? Does that sound like you? Is this something that you think that would make your story your story? So it wasn't, I didn't feel like she was putting things that did not reflect my voice or my writing. I think it was just like, okay, I'm gonna give you the suggestion. What do you think? And feel free. She always said, feel free to say no.
You can disagree. It's okay.
Yeah. So
I'll tell you why though. When I first published an anthology, I just said I was the first time. It was the first time for me. I was like, do whatever you want to the editor. I trust you. Do whatever you want. And then when I got it back, I'm just like, wait. And it got published, and it wasn't like with rhythm, with like the way we write. It was like in another place. And I'm just like, wait, that's not how I wanted it. So then after I'm always just like, is it good? Do you like it? How do you feel about it? So, but that's my favorite thing, like the grammar stuff, like you can just fix a period here or there, but the important thing is like the flow, like where you put the sentences, and so those were my main suggestions.
Yes, lady. So any other work that you have coming up, feel free to reach out to Yamberlie.
We will.
And submit more to more of the cuenticos, because I love your guys' style and I want to know more of your stories. I think the best things is like the things you're not supposed to talk about. I know you guys already talked about it, but it's like the taboo things. That's always been my favorite to read, because we all have these experiences, but we just don't put it out there because you're not supposed to. I know my family's always telling me like, no, don't talk about it. But it's like, no, please talk about it. Send it to me.
Does anyone have any more comments? I'm reading the YouTube here, so it's just everyone saying how amazing you ladies are. There's someone who says she's in Italy. It's 2:00. She doesn't want to, she's stuck watching this reading. Congratulations, everybody is super excited. Someone said, I feel like I'm talking to las primas, asking where they could purchase the book. And you know that most of what you have shared is relatable and resonates with them. They can't wait to read more of your work. So what do we have to look forward to from all of you?
I like I said, I have a couple of projects that I started, but I am the biggest procrastinator there is. So
Okay.
That's one. And actually, that, like I said at the beginning, that essay that I sent you guys, it was part of a bigger book. So that's why it was so hard to kind of like concise it and make it make sense. So hopefully I'll be able to work on that as more than just a cuentico, and make it perhaps a cuento that is a little longer and more involved in more detail. So, but I'll be reaching out to you, Angie, because I do need to do the one-on-one and the workshops on those stories for kids.
Yes. Okay, I'm here. Anyone else? Abril, what are you working on?
Well, now that I put it out there, I definitely have to submit to Sion Papi, so I have to work on that.
Tiene hasta el domingo.
Yeah, I'm
I'm a procrastinator.
Right now, yeah.
I'm a procrastinator, so I know, like, even with La Doña, like I was up, I felt like I was in college again, and I had a Blackboard assignment due at 11:59. So yes, be on the lookout for that. My dad's birthday just passed, so I asked him a bunch of questions just to have a little bit context and background. So that was fun.
Nice. ¿Y tú, Amanda?
I feel like this experience has been so beautiful that it's like evoked a lot of creative juices in me. So definitely looking into writing more. I have a writing Instagram account called Amo Palabras, and I do calligraphy and lettering art. So I have an account for that. So a lot of social media that I have to keep up with, but Amo Calligrafía. So those two things are my main focuses right now. It's very exciting.
Nice. Koilen?
Well, I definitely want to work with Yamberlie so that I can finally look through my chat book.
I'm gonna do it.
I know you're
I'm the one procrastinating.
But I definitely want to finally just finalize it and choose between either start submitting it into poetry chapbook competitions. But I'm struggling with that because there's a lot of Spanglish.
Be careful with that.
I know. So also there's a lot of fine print that comes with doing that as well. Yeah. And so I'm torn between self-publishing or
we have a workshop coming up with Roberto Carlos Garcia. He's a poet, and his indie press only publishes poetry. Okay. And he's gonna give an info session in July on what you guys should expect during that experience when you're about to publish, submitting to chapbook contests and whatnot. You got to be very careful and research those places where you submit your work.
Okay. And is it like
I will be posting it.
that was my next question.
So,
Okay.
if you have subscribed to our newsletter via DominicanWriters.com, you'll receive the notification, and I will be sharing it on social media tomorrow, more than likely, so that people could sign up. And Susana, you're finishing. You said you have your fiction book project.
Yes, my agent gave it back to me while I was on maternity leave, so I've been working on edits so I can send it back to her. And
You have an
hopefully
agent?
Yeah,
Oh, excuse me.
Wow.
so
That is
Yeah.
wonderful.
I'm hoping to one day be a Target. But
At Target, girl, there's bigger places.
somewhere where they can see my stuff. So I hope I get it in good shape so she can shop it around this year. Because I also believe, every no is closer to a yes. So I'm used to rejection. And she told me that. I was like, I grew up with a Hispanic mom. I'm used to hearing no. I don't care. Like, just do what you got to do. I will not be offended. So hopefully something happens this year, and I'll keep submitting here to Dominican Writers Association as well.
Okay, wonderful. I'm so proud of you, ladies. Thank you so much for contributing to this anthology. Let people know that they could find it in Target and Walmart and everywhere where book retailers sell books. We're gonna get it into some bookstores and some libraries, so you'll be on shelves. So
Thank you so much.
Abril, tú vas a tener que ya abrir la boca.
Oh man, I already know my mom is gonna be in Target and she's gonna be like, Abril. It's gonna be a conversation.
Bueno, lo bueno es que it's not your name on the cover, right?
Oh, but no, she'll pick it up. Oh, so interesting. And the first story is gonna be mine. Oh boy.
Right. Exactly.
But thank you, Angie, for letting us speak today and for creating this space for us and doing all the damn work that you do. Oh my gosh, like.
Yeah, where do you find the time? I mean, you mentioned having a child and like
when
this.
People ask me that question, I'm like, yo soy una loca, no se lleven de mí. My brain is just, I could do like 10 things at the same time. That's just the way my brain works. So I'm able to get things done quickly. Como dice Yamberlie ayer, que once you give me an idea.
Yeah, oh my, she runs with it. Forget it.
Day, it's set up already.
Like what?
I'm
But
like
yeah, let's do it.
If I believe in it, believe you me, ya yo durmiendo, I'm structurizing how it's gonna work.
I'm trying to catch up to you, Angie.
It's a little complicated. I tell people, give me 3 days for me to figure it out in my head, and then by the end of the week, ya it's set up. I'm very quick with things, pero it's not everybody. I only have one child. My kid is self-sufficient, and ella necesita que le cocinen y ni siquiera que le laven la ropa because he does that himself.
Not by hand, but not by hand.
Not by hand. Right, but not by hand. So I don't have the pressures that most moms do, is the life that I have set up has I've done it so that I could run Dominican Writers because it's very special to me. And I was very intentional about creating this platform and what I wanted it to be. And every time I turn around, it's getting bigger and bigger, and I see the impact in people. And that hearing you ladies, like the joy of you being published, to some people it might not be a big deal, but to me it is, because there's not that many of us out there.
No, you're right. I the first time that I ran into the Dominican Writers, Angie, actually was you had done an interview or YouTube with Julia Alvarez, who is my hero.
Oh yeah, that day I was like, is this real?
Yes, I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. And that's it. That was it.
So those are wonderful things that happen to me when you have Julia Alvarez email you and say, hey, could we schedule?
Amazing.
And now at the end of the year, they want me to do something else for them. And I'm like, sure. How can I say no to Julia Alvarez? Like, yo muevo todo, espérate, yo muevo todo to make sure that, you know, I could do this for Julia because imagínate, she's an icon.
Got it. Yes, yes, definitely.
You know, and Angie Cruz is my favorite author, and now I bump into her all the time, and I'm just like, hey. So to me, that's everything, you know. I'm very big on creating relationships with the writers. I'm getting to know who they are, which is not something that every platform does, but I usually know something about you, and I could, you know, when you come on the platform and I'm interviewing you, we're getting into the nitty-gritty of who you are as a person. And I like doing that. I like to get to know them. I don't like to have like this, ¿cómo te digo? Oh, she published, pero me prefiero tener ese acercamiento con el autor, because as I said, there's not that many of us that are published. And once I get to know you, if an opportunity opens up, then I send it to you. I'm like, look, this is happening. You might be interested in this. You said that, you know, you like doing this. You know, like Amanda says, I like doing calligraphy. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. I went on Instagram the other day. I was like, wait, you do espérate.
Yeah.
So, you know, mi gente is everything to me, and I only work with Dominicans. People could say whatever they want, but I inquire with my people first, and if they're not able to fulfill that, then I go out, but it hasn't happened yet. It's very, unless I'm looking for something very unique, but it usually starts with us, because lo mío es for everybody to know that we're not just peluqueros, we're not just dembocero, we're not just drug dealers. And, you know, there's so many great things about our culture and our traditions. And I want the world to know what that is.
There's actually, I was reading a study that was done by the City College, the Dominican Studies Department, which they have great publications. And there's a study that talks about how Dominicans have become, and I might be misquoting here, but I think the number one ethnic group in terms of minorities who have rich like college level education and are really thriving in the professional fields. I was like, yes, we need that. But you know, a lot of the things that you're doing,
an enormous amount of academics and that are Dominicans. I come across them all the time, and I'm just like, wow, you're doing what? You know, like last Friday, I was with Loria Garcia Peña. And to me, Loria is like, you know, I went over there y le regalé una funda de libro, and she was like, oh my God. Oh. And I'm like, Loria, I'm pretty sure that you haven't read these Dominican books. So, you know, and it was the first time that I had seen her in person, but I'm very familiar with her work, and she's incredible, a powerhouse, you know, and we have so many academics that we could learn from.
Yes. Yeah.
But Yamberlie, I don't want to take more of your time.
Oh no, yeah, you can go on. It's okay. It's okay.
Let me, do you have any more comments or questions? I don't think anyone, let me see. La gente dice, yes, keep talking. Someone said, Amanda, your writing was beautiful. Thank you for sharing your story. Jahaira said, felicidades a este grupo talentoso, logging off, but can't wait to see what's in store for you all. So, if no one has any more comments, we could end this wonderful get together. And I just want to once again thank you all for being part of this anthology. And I hope that to see many of you publish more of your work. So please tag me on your stuff. Let me know what's going on with your writing. If there's any way that I could help, email us, and you know, I'll figure out a way. And Yamberlie, thank you for your girl. I don't know how you do it because you got two kids.
Thank you. Thank you.
They're over there somewhere. No, thank you guys.
You have 2 kids and a husband, so I don't know how you do all this work.
I don't know how they haven't come in through that door yet. No, but luckily they're always like working or in school, so that's when I just like get on the computer when everyone needs. I'm like, okay, who do I have to answer? Who needs me right now? But thank you guys. I love this experience. This made me so happy to be a part of this project, because our stories are so different from anything out there. I work in publishing, and it's like I did not find any joy in reading the same submissions, the same our style, our Spanglish, our rhythm. It just comes through in the book, and so yeah, it was a really fun project. And thank you.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Yamberlie. It's been amazing.
All right, everyone. Have a good night and continue sharing your stories, okay?
Thank you, Angie.
Bye,
Thank you,
guys.
Yamberlie. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.